Learn the latest big news surrounding Raheem Sterling as reports continue to intensify around the possibility that he will become one of our players in this summer window. We have updates on Usmane Dembele and updates on Nathan Ake as well too, so there's a ton of things to break down and discuss in today's video, you guys. Smash the like button, help me go over 2,500 likes, and hit that like button too if you're happy to see Raheem Sterling here for next season. Without wasting no more time, so right now I want to start things off by talking about these Usmane Dembele updates. I've been hearing some personal context behind this deal too, so I'm going to start off by revealing the small things I have been hearing. Essentially, Dembele is giving Rudiger vibes, and when I say this, Rudiger, once January came, the idea from him and his agent was to assess every single contract offer first before making an ultimate decision. Now, this is very important. We know that Paris Saint-Germain had offered a deal before, a very big one, which reportedly was on the table for time. Dembele liked the terms but hasn't agreed to anything yet. Of course, with us, we know that we've already offered 4-year terms. We've been speaking to the player. We've offered a wage packet as well too. And it's quite interesting for the player. But ultimately, which is something I've said consistently and something reports have said consistently for months too, his number one thing would be to remain at Barcelona. So if by any crazy circumstances, for example, Barcelona somehow found a financial way to be able to give him the contract he wants, or Dembele just woke up one day and decided, you know what, I don't care about money at Barcelona, then he would actually stay and prefer to remain. Now, some reports have been coming out from Damasio, who I'm going to focus a lot on the reports that came out from his article today. The club have a little bit of reservations, it states, especially due to his injury concerns and history too. Now that for example, Paris Saint-Germain now have Luis Campos, he's their sporting director. Reports said earlier that he was put off from signing Dembele due to the fee, the price, and his injury record as well too. Me personally, I think the player's made great strides over these past 18 months and isn't as much of a liability as he originally was, because he has some positive things now, like has a proper diet plan, works especially harder. You're looking at his physique, it's grown a lot more too, and clearly he's just developed more and grown as a person, which is something human beings are allowed to do. So I do think, considering the fact that, with 5 subs, rotation, Dembele is still that X factor, and in my opinion, the very best clubs like us that, are lucky enough and fortunate enough to challenge for titles and trophies, silverware every single season. I feel like you need those X factor players in your team that can turn something from nothing. And I think we've lacked that, and I think at times this is why we look a bit functional compared to our counterparts around us, in my opinion. Currently, everything is pointing towards the fact that Barcelona just will not have any way to be able to fund a move to keep the player here. So it only makes sense that him and his team will assess all best options once the season ends. Before I finish, other reports have suggested that Dembele wants assurances that he is going to get guaranteed minutes and be like a first name player in the team, which I guess would make sense because, of course, when players decide on the transfers and the moves they're about to make, you're assessing how you could actually fit out that club and how things would work. And of course, if you only know us to play a back 3 setup with like 3 attackers in the team, so it's not as comical as it potentially sounds based on the fact that he is a top class, world class talent. But of course, you guys, more will come from this. And let's be patient and let's see. So right now, let's talk about the big story that dropped today, and that's everything involving Raheem Sterling. Now, before I actually discuss these Damasio reports that came out this afternoon, we have to turn our attention to reports that came out from the Mirror yesterday from a very reputable journalist that normally has a very good ear of moves that happen in this country. And essentially, he's saying that once we get rid of Romelu Lukaku, Raheem Sterling is going to be that super main target that we look to sign. And, I'll give my thoughts and opinions on this move. But breaking down the report even further, we all know that Lukaku is key. I mean, I feel like I've explained this so many times that I'm not going to waste time in this video explaining it again. But once his future is sorted out by the end of this month, we can then start to make serious moves in the window, because we've already been putting out approaches at this point in time. So things will happen quite quickly actually. So Sterling, so now moving on to the reports that came out today from Damasio. Essentially, it's just really emphasizing the point even further that he is the guy we want. And he reports that he could cost up to the fee of £35 million, which for me is a massive surprise because, of course, in terms of pure value, that's giving bargain vibes. And normally when players have like a year left in their contract, Man City, can they afford to take that loss? And they're more than happy to move the player on due to his high wages. And, they're happy to earn something small from the deal, considering they've got a big player now in Haaland, Alvarez, and many other moves to make in the window too. Who knows? But maybe that is what is happening at this point in time. We know that Sterling is more than open and happy to returning back to London. Of course, the city he was born in. He already knows the players at this club already too. And it seems like Tuchel is very impressed with the player. I think this is a very interesting story. You guys know some of my thoughts and opinions on Sterling too. But for me to really fully explain how I feel about this deal, I mean, I guess the best, most terrible way I can fully explain how I feel about this move is, imagining I was a kid and my mum promised me that end of the week we're gonna go out to get a meal of your choice. I'm thinking about all the fast food out there. Oh, am I gonna get McDonald's? Am I gonna get KFC or Chinese or whatever? And then ultimately in the end, your mum's only taking you to Wagamama's because, of course, it's a healthier option, which is going to be better for you compared to all that other fast food nonsense. Don't understand what I'm saying? I'm kind of not understanding it myself, but basically what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't excite me, but just because it doesn't excite me, it doesn't mean that I don't respect the benefits or understand the importance behind what a Sterling could bring to the team. Now, we do know that his movement off the ball is top class. It is very good. He can play on the right, on the left, and as a centre forward as well too. And, could it be an interesting observation to think, okay, if Lukaku was going, instead of maybe having Sterling maybe playing on the left-hand side, because currently in the team right now, we have a few options that can play down that side. What if he was translating to be more of a, false nine forward in that sense, which he has demonstrated before at Man City. As Raheem Sterling has matured even more, I feel like his qualities really shine more off the ball in terms of, how he thinks, how he moves, how he operates, and that sense of timing. I don't think he's an incredible finisher. He definitely has improved on that though. But I think the key to his finishing comes due to the quality positions he takes up inside the box. And potentially maybe, we have to accept the fact that traditional number 9s just don't currently suit working under Thomas Tuchel. Looking throughout his, managerial history so far, he's never really worked with anyone, not at Paris Saint-Germain, not at Dortmund, and even before at Mainz as well too. I mean, I guess at Mainz he did when he had Choupo-Moting and stuff like that up front. But I'm accepting the fact that we are moving away to a different style of, of goal scoring, essentially. And I think maybe Sterling could be quite smart for that, based on many factors very easy to, embody himself in the team, knows the league, has experience, and, is still 26 years old or 27 years old. He still has a lot of years ahead of him too. For 35 mil potentially, this is a smart fee and does make a lot of sense. But for my own personal view in terms of just football spectacle now, I'm not expecting people to have to agree with me with this, but I'm just sharing how I feel about something like this. I guess ultimately I've always wanted to see a bit maybe more excitement. I do feel at times we can be super functional under Thomas Tuchel as a team. It's all about players doing the textbook things in the moment. But I just think that it needs to be a bit more than that when you're a team like us challenging for silverware, because that player ability, that player unpredictability is what can ultimately win you those games, as we've seen time and time again at Man City. Now, of course, Sterling isn't the first movement forward that we've had in the system, and it's quite interesting that we've had quite a lot of very good ones here who haven't necessarily been able to translate that quality in the team. And I think one of the reasons due to this comes down to the lack of quality chances being made from deeper positions. I think in our midfield, we've got midfield players that prefer to play on the ground a lot. And when I look at the goals that City score, Liverpool score, there's a sense of verticality that comes from that, because if you're a player that is timing his run to beat the offside trap and a pass has come in 1 second too late, or is played too hard, or doesn't find you, then ultimately you're ruining a lot of those chances. When I look at Man City as well too, I see a team that regularly has 4 or 5 players attacking spaces inside the box, and that's just something that we don't necessarily do as much. I'm looking at players too like Pulisic and Werner. We have our thoughts and opinions on them, but I think one thing I would say is that has the system ultimately done enough to get the best out of them? I'm not too sure. I look at Pulisic, for example, and Pulisic is kind of like the Sterling-esque kind of winger, no? We kind of know what he can do off the ball. We've seen the goals he scored for us last season, the positions he's finding inside the box. And I guess if you were him, is there an argument on the fact that, why is it that, I'm playing as like a false nine, as a cam, and playing as a wing back, when you're going to sign a player that realistically you're probably going to give his best position to? I think this is where things get quite interesting because, with the similar profiles we already have, we didn't really see those benefits too much in the system already. So I guess, I'm putting these things out here, not as definitive things, but just like, questions and thoughts I'm pondering and thinking about. I guess a solution would be to the fact that, okay, maybe Tuchel might decide to change things up a bit next season with the system and formation to maybe accommodate more attacking players in the team. Because, once you play against those mid-block teams, you guys, we are a completely different team to how we play against every other team. And this has been our ultimate Achilles heel. Now, my theory's always been this, in the Bundesliga and Liga, and there's more spaces, or in Liga when you have Neymar, Mbappe and other players like that, then of course these issues don't really become a thing. But in the Premier League, when opposition teams won't press you, when they're not going to press your pivot in midfields, which you kind of need them to do to free up the spaces in behind them, this makes us very horizontal. This makes us very safe, and this is why we're not able to play in behind teams. So if we're going to continue to go for these players like this, I think the framework they work from has to help complement what they do as well too. For me though, Sterling's a good player and I've got a ton of respect for him. This video is not here to, for me to talk about him being crap or not good enough, because that would be stupid, and you guys know I don't like to be stupid, But just for my preference, maybe a little bit of style over substance this time, Like, I appreciate what he does, but for me, his beauty comes in his function. He's not someone that's going to produce a magical moment or take a game by the scruff of the neck, or, give you like proper memorable moments in games. I'm trying to think about Sterling's like top performances for City and stuff, and I can't fully remember them, even though he just has been good. So, that's some of my thoughts and opinions behind the steal. Share yours. How do you feel about Raheem Sterling? And to end things, we have to talk about Nathan Ake, because for the final segment in DiMarzio's report, he mentioned the fact that Tuchel is a big fan of Ake. Of course, we're looking at guys who can play on the left-hand side. You'd imagine it could be quite easy business to do with Man City because they need to sell players as well too. And Ake is a squad option for them. And, he is good playing that wide centre-back role. And DiMarzio reports that because Tuchel's a fan of the player, pay special attention on this story. Ake is a good player, but I'm sorry, man. Where's the physicality in the back? Where's the aggressiveness? Ake is not that guy. I'm sorry. We need that personality. We need that profile to replace Rudiger. I just think that if you're going to make like bias like Ake, where is he ever going to be world class? No. Even though he's one of those players that, will play for a top class team as part of their squad. These are moves for me that are a bit too sideways. If we're challenging and looking to close the gap on rivals ahead of us, signing their squad players isn't going to help us get there anytime soon. For me, and I don't care what people say, I'd rather just give minutes to like, world-class potential youth and like a Levi Colwill, instead of, letting him stagnate a little bit, giving him less minutes to give minutes to a player that, realistically won't be going up levels and levels in his career playing for us. I'm looking at that defense, how weak it could look, and I just think that, I don't know, it's a profile that doesn't really suit us and isn't particularly needed, even though he is a good player. With all the options we're linked with, I hope that we do much better with what we do. But if we ended up signing players like Ake as well, I'd be quite disappointed. A part of me thinking, why not just let Man City suffer? I mean, they've spending money like crazy, offering wages like crazy. Why are we going to sign their players and make it easier for them to balance the books? Let's make it hard for them. They're our rivals. But maybe that's just me being a fan, being cynical. I can admit that. But please, Thomas, I keep seeing too many reports of Tuchel's a fan of many standard squad-esque players for me. And come on, with an opportunity to really just like shape a team in your image, it's got to be more ambitious than players like Nathan Ake. Guys, they're my thoughts and opinions behind these stories. Share yours. What do you think? And on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. Catch you guys there with some more videos. Cool.